This conference will now be recorded.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. So in our yesterday's class, we're understanding what is importance of framework application and what is importance of implementation application. So when you are planning to create anything which will be used only in that place, you have to create it in implementations. And if there is anything like reusable, you have to create it in the framework. So how many frameworks are to be maintained? How many implementations are to be maintained? So this will be decided by business analyst, meaning on the day one, your city, suppose if your client is city manager, they will be deciding how many applications should be there. Based on that, they will be purchasing the license. So Pega license is what they have to purchase. And Pega license again depends upon the number of users. My Citibank has to work with 4 applications. Let me consider. I might be using it for accounts or credit card or savings account, all these things. So total, how many users we are trying to include it with. So that comes into picture. Based on that, license will be decided. Suppose if I am using this particular Pega for developing my main websites, maybe for Facebook, then how many users will be there? Some millions of users. If that is the case, just understand how huge the cost license will be. So Pega is completely used for internal applications only, because its license will be very, very costly, what an normal clients cannot afford. So today my city client, they have decided that we wanted to develop everything with Pega. So they will be reaching Pega systems team and they will be purchasing the license, and then they will be hiring or they'll be giving this for so and so software company. So software company, maybe Capgemini, they will be hiring the new developers, and from their development work will start. In between, my client will be saying only two things: what should be the budget and what should be the timeline. So based on that budget and timeline, my business analyst, they will be coming up with one plan. So this has to be completed in 3 months itself or 4 months itself. Accordingly, they'll be coming up with one plan. So based on that plan, they will be identifying how many resources, how many days, all these things. So meaning on the day one, business analyst will be getting the information about how many applications. Based on that, they will be creating with structure. They have to create framework and implementation structure, and straight away they'll create all the things. Once they are creating everything, next challenge for them is like they have to link all these things. Linking between applications is a bit challenging task for them. So they are supposed to get developers help. So here the main developer from your team will be involved. But as a beginners like you will not be involved into this kind of discussions or into this kind of structure design or budget related discussions or analysis related things. You will not be involved. So day one, who all will be there? Business analyst, client, one person from our company, maybe LSA, and Pega systems team person. As I told you, all the time, one person from the main Pega systems team will be available with us. Okay, so he has to be supporting all the time. Whatever the challenges we are facing, or whatever the challenges client is facing, or business analyst, he should be helping all the time. Maybe today, Pega has released one new version, maybe 9, let us consider. And if that is the case, 9 latest features we may not understand on the day one itself. No, they have included some new features. As a developer, we might not know. So we have to clearly understand what are those based on that support person. So for any kind of assistance, we are supposed to reach them. That is what the point. So meaning on the day one, business analyst, they are supposed to do something here. They are supposed to create maybe 10 applications, 3 framework and 7 implementations. This is what the structure they are coming up with. They are supposed to design everything. So once they purchase the license, so Citibank, they will be affording a lot of money here and they'll purchase the license. After they are getting this license, once installed, this is the blue screen what you see. Okay, so this blue screen will be common even in our personal edition, in my personal laptop, as well as in my office laptop. So both will be same. Before this, what happens, that only will be different. From here, everything will be same. I can see this blue screen just because I installed. And in the real time also, if I wanted to see this, there should be something to be done. So everything will be same. Maybe here instead of Pega logo, we can include like SBI logo or Citibank. These kind of changes only will be there. So before that, how did I get this screen? How to install? This is what we have to understand. So this is what I am seeing for the personal edition. So there will be 2 editions given by Pega here. So personal edition is what I have to install in my personal laptops. And office people, they should not be using personal edition. Very, very limited access. They should not be going with personal edition. They have to go with enterprise edition. So enterprise edition is very, very costly. So that depends upon the number of users they are using. Suppose if you consider Citibank, worldwide employees will be there, right? So even in Hyderabad, many branches, India, many branches. I'm talking about only internal employees. So worldwide users will be there. So based on number of users, and each and every user, they will be creating something for 10 customers. Suppose if I am credit card representative, okay, so I'll be using this application. I don't know that it is developed on Pega. I'm just a normal bank employee, and some customer like you coming to me asking to create one credit card. What I have to do? I have to use this application. I'll collect your first name, last name, all the things, and I'll be giving you one reference number, right? So Pega license depends on 2 things. What is that? Number of employees using that application, and each and every employee registering how many customers. Registering how many customers? If I'm a bank employee, that comes into cost again. And if I'm trying to register for 100 customers per day, number of customers and number of employees decides this cost. Usually cost will be very, very high, what a normal clients cannot afford. So I'm saying like enterprise edition is to be purchased, and this is personal edition, what to be used by only the people working generally, but that is a different story. So now either in the personal edition or in the enterprise edition, this software has to be installed. But in the personal edition, we got some restrictions. That is like this has to be installed only on 8 GB RAM. This kills lot of performance in the background. That is the reason this should be running on 8 GB RAM. So your laptop requirement should be 8 GB RAM. And if you are having SSD, if you are using latest laptops, SSD is what will be the hard disk type. If it is that, it will be very, very fast. In that case, you can able to operate this very well. If you are using 4 GB RAM, it will not work out. So you have to upgrade it to 8 GB 100%. So tomorrow and after tomorrow, so whoever is not having the laptop ready, just try to adjust all these things. You should be upgrading the RAM. It will not take more than 2000 rupees generally. You can just upgrade it. So, and it should be installed on Windows 10 or 11. Earlier versions of Windows will not support our database. It should be Windows 10 or 11. So once we have this laptop specifications ready, you are supposed to download this. So I think every one of you got the download link. I have posted it in the groups as well. So you can just download it from there. It will be 4 GB or 5 GB around. Once you download, you have to extract because that is compressed folder. Okay, so because of n number of files, I have compressed it. So that is compressed folder. You have to extract that. So once you extract, all the files will be extracted out of that, and then you will be having one option like install. Whatever the document I gave you, it will be very clear. You will be having an option like install. So if you double click on this, everything will be installed. Before that, if you are having any other version of Pega, some people might be having 8.1 or 8.2 or 3 already installed. So if that is the case, my suggestion is to install the latest one again, because whatever the concepts we are discussing in the class, if it is not correctly syncing with your screen, you'll be getting confused. Correct, right? You are all beginners. Maybe down the line you can able to cope up with all the latest changes, but initially you are supposed to understand as it is. So my suggestion is to go for the latest version installed. Suppose if you are having some important data in the old version of Pega what you are using, you can have two softwares installed in two different drives. You might be having C drive or D drive, right? If you are having only one drive, we cannot do anything. If you are having multiple drives, you can maintain that software in C and second this one in some other drive according. So if you're having any other version of Pega, you can simply uninstall. Uninstall meaning you can delete that, nothing more than that. So how to delete it also I have given you with the screenshots. You can just watch that. So once you delete it, next thing here is like you should not be having any other version of Java. Suppose if you are using some other version of Java, it will be again conflict, because Pega while installing the software, this is running completely on Java, right? So this will be installing some version of Java, and if you're having some other version, again conflict. You can just delete some other version what if you're having, and make sure you don't have any other database also. So if you're using Oracle or SQL for some other things, if you can change the port numbers appropriately, it will work. Else if you're not using it anymore, if you're completely sticking on to Pega for that laptop, you delete all the things. So you have to delete Java, you have to delete old version of Pega, and you have to delete database, and make sure you disable antivirus also. So I'm recording this, I'll share the recording also. So make sure you disable antivirus also. And then once you restart the laptop, after you restart the laptop, you can straight away open the document or open the file what I gave you. I said like I'm sharing the file which is of 5 GB, right? So if we just extract and open it, there will be something like install option. So once you double click on install option, you will be getting one black window showing up. One black window. So it will be looking like this. One black window will be popping up, and from there server starts. Server running up starts from there on. So once the server is running in the background, installation happens. It will take maybe 20 to 30 minutes based on your system speed. So once the installation is completely done, there should be 3 icons showing on the desktop. If we get 3 icons showing on the desktop, that is the sign like installation is complete. So what will be those 3 icons? So it will be startup, login, shutdown. So these 3 will be the icons showing on your desktop, directly on your desktop. So in the background, this black window should be all the time running. You should not close this. So if you close this, server will be stopped. in turn you cannot run Pega.
Sir,
So this
it is
black
not
window should be running all the time. Let me come. So this black window should be running all the time. So if we are running this, then only server is running up. You should never close this. You should minimize this, and then you have to start working with the remaining things. So once the server is running up, if we just double click on the login button from the desktop, this page you'll get directly. In the browser, you will directly get this page with this blue color. So this is what. From here, you can able to do the respective tasks. So once your Pega work is done, you have to shut down your laptop, right? So then what you have to do? You have to close this. Close this meaning you should not hard close this. You have to use shutdown icon from the desktop, and if that is the case, this black window, whatever it is running, it will be automatically closed. You should not close this window hard closed. This should be shut down from backend itself. Okay, that is what. So point here is we have to first double click on this to run this black window and wait for 5 to 10 minutes, and then if you click on this one, this blue screen is what you'll get in the browser. So from here everything will be same in your office. So till now what we are understanding, making our laptop ready, installing and starting the server manually and getting this blue page. This is what I'm doing so far. And in the office, from here everything will be same. You have to get this blue page even in your office edition, enterprise edition. So with our knowledge or with our experience, if you are going to office and on the day one you will be getting your laptop. So you are going to office, maybe like 3 years experienced guy, so you are very good at technical. So your manager has selected you, they are giving you 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs package. You joined the company, onboarding is done, your manager, they will be giving you laptop right on the day one. So what you will do then, you will just check for this software to be installed. That is what we generally do. There you will be just checking what is the OS version and what is the RAM, installed RAM, and what are all the other basic things. So if you just check for RAM showing it like 4 GB, suppose if it is showing 4 GB, what generally people will do, they will go to the manager and saying like this is just an 4 GB RAM, so I cannot install software, how to upgrade, all these things you will discuss. If you are having these kind of discussions with your manager, he will clearly understand that you are fake resource. Okay, even if you are very strong in technical, even if you can do any kind of Pega requirement, if you ask these kind of questions, they will straight away consider that you are not genuine, because there will not be software installation concept in the enterprise. In the office laptops, once you get this laptop, don't run behind network team or your manager asking for the installation. There will not be installation concept at all. If you are asking any word related to installation, next day they can catch you. You should be very cautious. Even if you are having very strong Pega skills, if you are not following these kind of basic things, no use at all. So what is happening? From here everything will be same. Before that, in my personal laptop I have installed, but in the enterprise edition it is not like installing software individually on every laptop. So there is no concept at all. So your laptop might be 2 GB RAM or 4 GB RAM, it will be working perfectly. So on the day one you should not ask for installations. You are supposed to ask for this URL. I can see this is the URL showing up in my laptop. If I hit this URL, I can understand that this blue page will be popping up. Correct, right? Now, if I copy this URL and open Mozilla Firefox, and paste it, will I get it or not? I should get. So everything running here is based on this URL. So in the real time, on the day one, you are supposed to ask for that URL. You should not ask for the installation or RAM or laptop related things. So can you please give me development URL is what you have to ask. And they'll be giving you this URL. So with this URL, you can open any of the browser and hit that, and you will be getting this page. This page meaning by that time they might be customizing it. Instead of Pega, they might be showing it like Citibank logo or HDFC based on there. And background instead of blue color, they might be showing it white or some other changes. But page will be same. So here, once you get the page, it is asking for username and password, right? On the day one, there will not be anything for us. So you have to ask for username and password. So they will be creating one username and password, and technically this ID should be called as operator ID. Okay, so this is to be called as operator ID. Day one, what is your duty? You have to ask dev URL. So you are developer. So dev URL specific meaning there will be some other URLs also. No? I'll talk about that later. So you should be stressing asking for what is the development URL. So what will you do with just URL? You should be requesting them for operator ID creation. Please create one operator ID for me. This is what you have to ask. So one operator ID will be created. So generally operator ID meaning maybe you joined CTS, okay, some cognizant company. This will be your employee ID. You will be getting one employee ID, right? And after that, they will be assigning you one project, one client as well as one project. So that project, for that project, you have to work. Maybe that project is city. So from cognizant, you are working for city. So city manager or city client, what he has done by the time? He has purchased Pega license, not your cognizant. Your client will be purchasing Pega license. So once the Pega license is purchased, he will be installing everything from their end, and you are supposed to log in here and you have to work for that client, right? All the work you are doing for client, not for cognizant. So here client ID will be again there. You should not use Capgemini IDs. So you join a company, that ID will be there, employee ID will be there. Additionally, once you are assigned to any project, that project ID also will be there. Client ID will be there. Client ID might be maybe city 1234. Maybe after 3 months, you came out of that project. Then this is of no, not valid. You will be assigned with some other projects, maybe American Express. There he has to create one more client ID for you. So you are supposed to ask for that URL, and you are supposed to ask ID creation for them. So client ID will be there as well as your main employee ID will be there. So here on the day one, your manager, they has to create operator ID for you. Operator ID will be based on the client ID only. So because I am trying to log in here and do my client work, not my Capgemini or Cognizant work. So operator ID will be based on client ID. So every one of you will get 2 IDs, main office ID as well as client ID. So your client ID will be your operator ID. So your manager will ask you what is your client ID. So based on that, one operator ID will be created for you. Understanding, right? Based on that, one operator ID will be created. And once you get this ID created, you will log in. And in next you'll get some screen where you can develop all the things. Maybe next day, one big manager again joined. Okay, very high level manager joined. So he is also new for Pega, right? I mean, like our company, right? He's very strong in Pega, maybe new for our company. So again, we have to give this URL for him, and we have to create operate ready for him, right? You joined today, next day some other high level person joined, and your manager who is already there, he will ask you to create operate ready for him. So creating operate ready for other people is very, very small task, but most of the people doesn't know how to do this also. That is what I'm saying. This will be very, very small task. So you have to understand how to create operate ready for other people. Fine. So this is what on the day one happening. Maybe before the groundwork, suppose my client, city client, is purchasing Pega license today, so he has to get this page right after installing. Now if it is a personal edition, I am installing in my laptop, I am taking care of some laptop specifications. But in the real time, once they are purchasing enterprise edition or office edition, they are supposed to also install, but they will install in their network meaning maybe city client is maybe in US. So in that client location, they will be installing this software. Once they install their software, again this URL will be generated, and this URL, it will be showing it like city dev accordingly. So everything will be same, only first things will be changed. City dev or BOA dev, accordingly it will be showing up. So this URL will be generated once they are running server at their location. Once this URL is generated, it will be circulating to all the developers. Maybe I am a developer from India, you are a developer from Australia, and some other from Ireland. We all are working on the same project. So what is happening? My client or the network team who is in US, they are running the software, they're running this version, Office Enterprise Edition, and this URL will be generated, and that URL I can access from India. They'll just give that URL, that's it. I can access it from India, you can access it from England and some other place also. What is happening? Since we all are connected to one client network, I can access this URL. So this is the personal URL, and this URL I can access from my Google Chrome, and I can access this from Firefox or Opera, anywhere. Now if I simply copy this URL and give it to you where you have not installed, can you access this? You cannot. You cannot. So this URL is working only for my laptop, meaning only for my server, and the URL what client is giving us, that also works for only that server. So day one, once you get the laptop, what you will do? There will be something like VPN. If you don't know, just ignore. So you are supposed to connect it to the client network. So if you connect it to the client network, that URL will work. So day one, once you get the laptop, you are supposed to ask your manager how to connect it to the client network. What is the process? Those you have to discuss. How to install, and what is the RAM size? I cannot proceed with this RAM. These kind of things you should never ask. If you are going like an fresher, maybe BTech third year or fourth year, then that is fine. Then no one will bother about all these things. If you are going like an experienced 2 years or 3 years, and by that time if you are very strong in doing all the projects, and if you don't know basic thing, so you'll be in danger. So apart from learning Pega things, learning process is very, very important. You should never be caught anywhere. At least you have to be a very, very cautious for 1 year. Post that you can just try to understand everything what will happen. So the URL if I'm trying to run a server in personal edition or in the office edition, URL will be 100% generated. If it is a personal edition, that URL works anywhere in my laptop only, anywhere in my laptop. And if the URL which is given by the client, that also works anywhere in that network. It might be from US or Australia, who all are connected to that network. If you are using that URL in your personal laptop, it will not work, because personal laptop is not connected to the client server. So once we are connected to the server, this URL will be working. So you are supposed to ask for this development URL. Post that, you are supposed to ask for this operate ready creation. Suppose if you join a company as a Pega tester, okay, some tester, so even they have to get this page at least on their laptop, right? So there they have to ask QA URL. I'll talk about this later. So URLs will be different, servers will be different. So I'll talk about this later. So for now, let's stick to the point of development perspective. So you are supposed to get this URL. So initial days, once your Pega client is purchasing Pega license, he will be getting that installed in his network by his network team. So network team, they will be giving this URL. This URL, who will be using for the first time? Business analyst. So business analyst, they will be using this URL and they will be getting this page. On the day one, they will be getting this page as it is with the Pega logo only. After that, they will customize. Change this to BOA logo, change this to green color, or just include this with curved margins, so we can able to see with rectangular box, right? Instead we can make it like oval shape. So some kind of extra customizations we'll do slowly. On the day one, whatever the thing Pega is giving us, I can see as it is here. So here, if I hit this URL, what is it doing? It is asking for username and password, right? So today is the day one. I am business analyst. I have to log in. I don't know anything about login now. If you join as a developer, your manager will be having login by that time. He will create it for you. Maybe next day, once you can log in, you can create ID for some other people. So once I log in, only I can proceed further, right? So day one, there is no ID also. I am the business analyst on the day one. So it is still asking for username and password, how to proceed. That we have to understand. So meaning, as a business analyst, I have decided to create 15 applications, 5 framework and 10 implementations. So to create applications one after another, I have to log in. So there is no ID. There is no ID. So by default, Pega systems team, they will be giving us one master ID. Master ID only business analyst will be knowing. Master ID and password, they will be sharing it. They will be logging for the first time. They will be creating a number of things and they'll change the password. So master operator ID. So whoever is logging in, it is to be called as operator ID. So they will be sharing with one master operator ID. That master operator ID is administrator @pega.com and password as install. Okay, so whatever the document I gave you, so this will be there. Need not worry. So administrator @pega.com and password as install. So this is the master operator ID using which I have to log in for the first time. Post that, I will be creating one operator ID for my manager. If I'm business analyst, I'll be creating operator ID for so and so development manager, and he can log in. He can create 10 operators for his team. So in this way, chain process will be there. So meaning on the day one, administrator@pega.com. Let me log in and show you. And password as install. Now once I click on login, so it will be logged in and take me to the next screen. After that, I'll be changing this password, because if you join company today as a developer, you know the password, right? Whatever the master password Pega systems team is giving, we know that is install only. If you know that password, you can just log in as the administrator and you can do some changes also, right? So password will be changed after they logging in. They will be creating operator IDs from there on. They will create new operator ID for themselves. They will create new operator ID for the development manager, and the main master password will be changed. Now, if I click on login, what should happen? What should happen? So it has to first check whether this ID is correct or not, right? Suppose if I'm giving some other name, it should not log in. It will be checking whether this ID is correct or not and its related password is correct or not. So on clicking on login button, it has to execute one SQL query. So this username and password, this has to be comparing with some data, right? Some data meaning database table only, no other option. So there should be one database table created in the background by this time, meaning when I install Pega software, database also will be installed. So that is the reason other version of databases, if you are having, just remove that, because it will be having conflict. So one new database thing will be installed here, and that will be maintaining some data. This is one example. So if I just enter something different, it should not log in for me. So it should show some invalid password or invalid ID. Now if I click on this, it will be generating one SQL query with that table, and it will be identifying whether this operator ID is correct or not, and whether this password is default or changed or not. Accordingly, it will be taking me to the next screen. So this is the screen what we'll see on the page one. This is our actual Pega software. So this is all actual Pega software. So here you have to install all the things. I mean, like here you have to drag and drop and design all the things. All the development work will start from here only. So that is the reason this is called Dev Studio. I can see something like Dev Studio with the name.
Chandra, sorry to interrupt here. So how do we need to after login here, where we need to change the password?
I'll talk about it. So everything will be covered. I'll talk about it. How to create new operator ID and how to create operator ID for a tester, for a manager, how to change the password. I'll show everything. So just don't worry. So I just logged in here. Now, if I logged in, what is the thing I'm seeing? Dev Studio, where our actual development work has to be done. Suppose if you are logging in maybe older versions of Pega. Now we are in the latest one, 8.7. Before version for this is 8.6, 8.5, 4, 3, 2, like 8.1. Before that, don't think 7.9. It is 7.4. So 7.4, 7.3, 2, 1. Before that 6.3, 2, 1 accordingly. Suppose if your project, you join one company today, maybe City is your client, he will be purchasing some Pega license, right? Maybe he is using this Pega from past 10 or 15 years. By that time, what might be the latest he has purchased that, right? Today latest is 8.7. If any new project starts, it will be like 8.7. And maybe 10 years back, maybe 7.3 was the latest by that time. No option, he has to purchase that 7.3. And if suppose he is still using that 7.3. So these days, Pega is pressurizing us to upgrade to the latest one. Why are you still using the old one? So why can't you use the latest one? This is what we understand. That I'll talk later. This is related to upgrade. Suppose if your project is still using the old one, then Once you log in there, here you will be finding like Designer Studio. You'll not find Dev Studio. You'll be finding something like Designer Studio. Designer Studio meaning generally what we can design all the development work. Here also we'll do. So there we can do all the design related tasks. Once the design is completed, what will be the next possible actions generally? As a developer, my business analyst, they will be giving up a screen. I will design everything. After that, this has to be given for the testers. So testing person, they have to log in and they will be testing it accordingly. So for moving this design from development server to testing server, there should be some kind of deployment process related generally. So in the old versions of Pega, deployment process and other related things will be little complicated. But in the latest versions, all these are completely included. So their designing only is allowed correctly. Here everything with the deployment and all other admin related things. That is the reason they have renamed this to Dev Studio, where complete development, including designing everything. So this is one small change what you'll observe. Their Designer Studio, here Dev Studio. And we can see one header showing up. So this is our actual Pega tool where we can see the top one showing it with header, where I can see something like configure, launch, create other things. Suppose today, now I logged in like a business analyst, right? I will be creating one application for my framework and one application for my credit card implementation. Now credit card application I'll create and I'll hand over this to development team. So developers, what they will do, they will design that complete application, and that has to be ultimately used by whom? Original bank people. So bank employees, what they will do, once they are using that, suppose if I am a customer, normal customer, I'll go to bank, right? So their bank employee will be using this application. So there he will be collecting all the details, my personal details, all the things, and finally I'll be getting one email. So your credit card request is raised. It will take 2 days for activation. Likewise, I'll get one email. So what is happening? The application what they are using, meaning credit card application, the application what they are using is configured with some email triggering. Correct, right? Just logically. So it is configured with some email triggering. So generally, emails is not based on this Pega directly. So you join, or suppose if you're trying to place one order in Amazon, you will be immediately getting one email, thank you for placing the order. What will be the from address generally? orders@amazon.com. And that particular email inbox is not completely related to Amazon. What they are doing, they are purchasing some mail server. It might be from Google or IBM or Yahoo or Outlook accordingly. Correct, right? So Outlook accordingly. So what is happening? My Amazon application is integrated with some mail server, and we are purchasing that domain, orders@amazon.com instead of @gmail.com. we are purchasing that and we are using it. Similarly, my credit card application what I'm creating now, this also should trigger one email. Let me consider. If that is the case, we have to take some other mail server. It might be Google or Outlook or anything. There we'll be changing that domain @city.com, credit cards @city.com. From there, email has to be triggered. Meaning my Pega application needs some configurations with the mail server rights. Correct? No? So for those kind of things, we use this configure options. So if I wanted to configure some mail related things, or if you wanted to configure something related to SMS. So extra configurations is what we'll see. Suppose if you join some Cognizant company today, you will be getting one email also. First name dot last name @capgemini.com or cognizant.com is what you see. And they are not the owners of that mail server actually. So they are purchasing that mail server from some third party. Generally, the third party mail servers will be Outlook or IBM. Earlier, completely IBM only. Now we are just going for Outlook, Microsoft. So the application what we are using has to be configured with some extra things. This all happens at the main header. So once I log in, this is the first page what I'm seeing, and here we can able to do some extra configurations. And in left side, I can able to see something. This is to be called as Explorer. So top one is the header where we'll do some extra configurations and other things. Left side, this is to be completely called as Explorer. Okay, and I can see something like bottom. This is to be like a footer. So this is actually footer. So footer is completely related to debugging. So as a developer, you have to debug, right? Suppose today you are given one requirement to create one login or registration page. First name, last name, all these things you'll drag and drop and include. And once you click on submit button, one email has to be triggered. Consider this is your requirement. As I told you, triggering email and other things are completely included here. You need not write any extra Java coding. So day one, you have implemented this. You have implemented this requirement. Once you click on submit button, email is triggering. So you have tested it perfectly. After that, this has to be actually tested by testers. Okay, so there will not be any approval accepted from us. Testers have to give the approvals. So this has to be tested by the testers. So testers, what they will do, they will try to register a new customer from their end, and they will enter first name, last name, all the things, and they will check whether email is triggered perfectly or not, right? Suppose email triggering is happening and maybe it is taking 10 minutes of time. After I placing an order in Amazon, if I'm receiving email for after 30 or 1 hour, so not proper, right? So my testing team, they will be logging one defect saying like performance is not good. They'll not say like functionality is not good, functionality is working. Okay, email is triggering, but performance related. It has to be triggered in 3 seconds or 10 seconds. It is taking 1 hour. So as a developer, what you have to do? You have to accept that defect, no option. You have to accept that defect and you have to check where it is breaking. Correct, right? So in this whole process, email triggering, did you do anything on your own hands? There is completely Java coding. You are just using that. Somewhere it is getting delayed. So you have to use these debugging tools. Okay, you have to use these debugging tools. So how much time it is taking for the email triggering, and why it is not receiving for the recipient in time? What will be the number of milliseconds it is taking here? Everything you have to debug and you have to provide the justification. So point here is top will be completely header, left will be explorer. I'll talk about this explorer later, and bottom will be completely related to debugging. And in between, I'm seeing something like a banner showing up it like Pega Infinity. Okay, so I'm seeing some banner showing it like Pega Infinity. That is what I'm seeing. So this is completely for the promotional purpose. Now, as I told you, we are in the latest version 8.7. Before that, 8.6, 8.5 accordingly. So 8.1, maybe 8.0, From 8.0 to 8.7, there are multiple versions launched. And all these versions are to be called as infinity versions. Infinity versions. It might be 8.7 or 8.4 or 8.2.2.2 or anything, any version which is starting with 8, that is to be called as infinity version. Before versions, maybe 7.4, as I told you, 7.4 after that 8.0 has got lot many changes. N number of extra features got added. Okay, so that is the reason they are giving these versions with the name infinity versions. So N number of features got added. Infinity versions is what they are calling. And in interviews, they will ask you, no one will ask you, do you have experience on 8.7 or do you have experience on 8.2? So they will not be specifically asking for the version number. So currently we are learning 8.7. Maybe if your project is still using 8.2, so you have to work on 8.2 only, no option. So the point here is, in the interviews they'll ask you one point, that is like, do you have experience working on infinity version or not? So you should not think about what is infinity. It is like 8.x, anything. So infinity version is what we are seeing, where we got lot many extra features added up. So that is the reason they give infinity version. And this is just completely for our promotional purpose. And if we scroll down, we can see something like an guardrail warnings. Generally, what is guardrail warnings? If you are not following the best standards, there will be some warnings, right? So that is what it is showing up here. So here again we'll be having two things, introduced by you and introduced by team. Okay, so if you are given a task, what you are supposed to do, you have to design accordingly, and if it is looking reusable, you'll create it in the framework, if not in the implementations directly. Suppose if you are doing everything in the implementations directly, so that is bad practice, right? So if that is the case, what will be impacted? What will be impacted? Compliance score will be impacted. Meaning, if you are not following the best standards, score is what will be impacted. Now, every one of you, it's your duty to identify whether there are any warnings introduced by you or not. So day one, you will log in with your own operator ID, right? So here you will be getting same home page. There you have to see what are all the warnings introduced by. So if you are having something created as first name in implementation 1, maybe in 2 and 3 also, instead of you creating it in the framework, what are you doing? Some bad standards what you are following. If that is the case, that should be a warning, no? That is not a blockage actually. It will be allowing me to get the output. It is not a blockage. It is just a best standard warning. So you have to take care of warnings as well. If this is the, if you are having any warnings, score will be impacted, and as a manager, we should be answerable for the Pega systems team. So your duty should be checking for this to be 0. And if I am manager, if there are 10 people like you working with me, then I have to take care of this to be 0. There should not be any warnings by me, as well as I have to take care of my team as well. Okay, my team as well. Even if I'm following best standards, if some person is not following, as a whole team will be blamed. So that is the reason manager has to take care of everything to be 0 here. And hence every one of you will be going for code review actually. Okay, suppose if you are given a task, end of the day or maybe once in 2 days, your manager will ask you, what is the task given for you? And how did you do this? Where did you do this? And just because of you, there are 4 severe warnings. Are you following best standards or not? So why can't you delete this and redesign it here? Everything comes into picture. So they don't want to take any surprises at the last. That is the reason they wanted to check it on daily basis. If that is the case, it can be easily handled in the earlier phase itself. So we are clearly understanding how to install this and what will be the installation process in the real time. You should never talk about installation in the real time. So what will be the process in the real office on the day one? What is operator ID and what is the master operator ID? Once you log in, how the look and feel will be. So this is what we are understanding. Okay.